Discuss the elements. So what are elements? Elements are pure substances. So they are any substance with a single kind of particle, and those particles all have the same kind of atoms. The particles cannot be divided further. So example of that is the diamond. Diamond is a pure carbon. Next. So now let's talk about how are elements identified. So we have two properties for the elements. We have the physical properties and the chemical properties. So under physical properties, we have three: the boiling point, the melting point, and the density. And for chemical properties, we have two: reactivity with acid and its reactivity with oxygen. So next, how are elements categorized? So by their properties. So elements are categorized first by their properties. So again, the properties, we have the physical and the chemical. And they are also categorized by the three major types of elements. So we have the metals, metalloids, and the nonmetals. So let's discuss first the metals. So what are metals? Metals are shiny, good conductors of heat and electricity. They are malleable or they can bend. And they are also ductile or pulled into wire, can be pulled into wire. 95% of all elements are metals. So example of that are lead, copper, and tin. So this is the periodic table of elements of metals. So we have here the lithium, beryllium, sodium, magnesium, potassium, and the rest. Now let's talk about the metalloids. So when you say metalloids, they are semiconductors, meaning some conduct electricity and some do not. So electrical conductivity of metalloids is not as good as metal. They have also some properties of both metals and nonmetals. They are shiny, metallic appearance, and some are also malleable or can bend and ductile or can be pulled by the wires. So examples of metalloids are the boron, silicon, and antimony. So this is the periodic table of elements where you can find the metals. I mean the metalloids. So the metalloids here are the color orange or the red. The boron, so we have here the boron, silicon, germanium, arsenic, antimony, tellurium, and the polonium. The next slide. Let's talk about the nonmetals. So nonmetals are dull, not too shiny. They are also poor conductors of heat and electricity. They are solids. Solids are brittle and break easily. Not many solid objects are made up of nonmetals. So for example, iodine, sulfur, and neon. So now this is the nonmetals. We have here the helium, neon, argon, krypton, xenon, and the radon, and also the rest. So ang phosphorus, non-metals po na siya under element. Now let's move to the comparison chart. So for metals, its state is solid at room temperature except mercury. For non-metals, some gases at room temperature, some solids, and one liquid or the bromine. For metalloids, solids at room temperature. For their appearance, metals are shiny luster, and non-metals are not very shiny at all. And the metalloids, some are very shiny. And when you talk about the conductivity, metals are good conductors of both heat and electricity, while the nonmetals are poor conductors of heat and electricity. And the metalloids, some may conduct electricity, but some are poor conductors of heat. For the malleability and ductility, metals are malleable and ductile, while the non-metals, they are brittle and not ductile. And for the metalloids, they are brittle also and not ductile. Now let's proceed to compounds. So compounds, what are compounds? Compounds are pure substance made of two or more elements. What are the properties of compounds? So same with the elements, they also have two properties, which are the physical and the chemical properties. What else can be said of compounds? So compounds are elements combined through a chemical reaction. So ang compounds, elements gihapon na siya. Ang kalainan lang, murag doble na siya nga elements or duha na siya klase nga elements nga gi-combine. So nahimo na siya, gitawag na siya compound. Elements don't randomly form compounds. Elements combine in a very specific ratio or based on elements mass. So dili tanan elements daw naga-combine. So pareha sa ginabase siya sa ginatawag nga elements mass or ang atomic mass or atomic weight sa element. So example of compound is the sodium chloride or the table salt. What are common compounds? Okay, so now let's talk about the common compounds. Common organic compounds include, okay, we have here the carbon, nitrogen, hydrogen, and oxygen, such as those found in caffeine. And also we have here the theobromine or the active ingredient in chocolate. So now let's talk about the importance of symbols. So, symbols, ang ibig sabihin nun, for example, silicon, ang symbol niya Si. So, nganong importante man nga naay symbol ang element. So, as you learned, scientists standardized the shorthand way we represent elements by their chemical symbol. One of the main reasons this was developed was because using letters was the easiest way to represent the elements. So, ang katong symbol, mauto siya ang naga-represent sa element. So, again, for example, hydrogen, ang naga-represent niya nga symbol is letter H. Tama. So, another reason that we use chemical symbols is to allow us to write chemical formulas easily. Now, let's talk about the common elements. So, common elements, we have here the carbon. Carbon compounds are important in many facets of the petrochemical industry. So, next we have here the chlorine or the Cl. Chlorine is also a multitude of industrial uses, including making bulk materials like bleach paper. We also have here the copper, and the symbol of copper is Cu. All US coins are now copper alloys, and gunmetals also contain copper. So, ang mga bala daw sa US o ang coins are usually made of copper. Bala sa pusil. So, copper na siya ang ginahimuan na materials. Ginagamit ka materials. Now, let's talk about, again, the element and compound, ilang kalainan. So again, ang element is a substance that is made up of only one type of atom. So pag muing kag element, only one type of atom, isa ra ka atom ang naadira. Pag muingon pod kag compound, a substance that is made up of more than one type of atom bonded together. Again, element, only one type of atom. Pag compound, more than one type of atom bonded together. So that's it for our weekly discussion. Thank you for listening and have a good day.